Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. All Ball, his podcast, by the way. You know, I was saying this, Doug, is that, listen, scoring matters. But in Wilt's 9 greatest scoring years, no titles. In Michael's 3 greatest, no titles. In that Magic wasn't a great scorer, but he's a 1. Bill Russell wasn't a great scorer, a 1. I always thought D. Wade had sort of the IQ, the toughness, the respect of other alpha males. He felt like a 1, even though with LeBron he stepped back and said, okay, you're the better 1. I look at James Harden and I'm like, okay, he scores. But, Doug, I don't think he wants to be a leader. I never feel like, okay, this is a guy I can rely on. Is it possible James Harden is the world's best 2, and he's simply a great scorer, which this league has had 50 years of, but you don't really build a franchise around him?
I'll meet you in the middle. He's not just a great scorer, he's a great passer. He's as good an offensive player as there is in the NBA, as there maybe ever has been in the NBA, and especially for how the NBA is played now, right? Yes, a lot of NBA basketball has a lot more ball movement than they have in Houston, but his ability to use the ball screen is second to none. His ability to, create space off of mismatches. He hits threes. He gets to the foul line. He plays analytics basketball. He's unbelievable on offense. What he's not is he's not a champion. And you are in the NBA, in basketball, who your best player is.
Yeah.
And where I will meet you is, like, look, you can't not play defense. You can't be a non-defender and expect to win a championship. But I mean, what is Houston to do? Right? They're not going to trade him. There's nothing you're going to get back in return that's going to put you anywhere in the mix. If the story is Westbrook for Wall, what does it do? Look, I still think Houston's really good. They're just not going to beat the Lakers. They're not going to beat the Clippers. Okay. And I think that Washington's going to fight for one of the bottom playoff spots in the NBA. And hopefully Westbrook's relationship with Scott Brooks can be good enough to get the best basketball out of him at this point in his career. And I think more than anything, these moves were made to keep the other stars happy, right? That Harden didn't like playing with Westbrook. Beal didn't like John Wall's work ethic. You switch guys and maybe those guys are happier and they stay for a long time, which kind of goes back into your Milwaukee story. I don't know if it makes him happier, but Drew Bledsoe is a massive upgrade over what they had with Eric Bledsoe last year.
So we saw this story this week. Joy and I were reading this, and it was kind of interesting. The Athletic did a good job. They showed you all these things that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard got. Like they had personal trainers. Doesn't bother me. I think in this day and age, a lot of guys have their own trainers, whatever. That didn't bother me. Practice schedules, they dictated. Don't love it, but it is what it is. Media, they wouldn't talk to him until 40 minutes. Don't love that. LeBron's always available to the media. So when you read that story in The Athletic of all the special treatment they got as a former guy that was, ran a team, what was a turnoff to you that you don't think plays in the room? And what is just, hey, it's their stars. You're going to give them some special stuff.
Look, there's a limit there, right? Like you play in college and the best players get the best shoes. That's everybody at the start. Here's how it works in college basketball. Okay. Everybody at the start of the year gets the same like Nike team shoe. And you're like, yeah. And, then the starters are like, they go to the manager like, yo, can I get some Gary Paytons? Can I get some gloves? Can I get some shoes that I like, some Jordans, whatever? And then the star gets basically anything they want. So star treatment is nothing new. But some of that, I think there's a couple flaws here. One, they came from different organizations. And so there's not the sweat equity, right? Like if you come up through that organization, you become a star and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm from San Diego. I want to live there. But if you're coming in from Toronto and you've been in San Antonio and you want to live in San Diego, and people can say like, well, Kobe lived in Orange County. If the chopper didn't work from Orange County, you could still get there by car.
Right.
Okay? You cannot do San Diego to LA by car and hope to make it to a shoot around, let alone a game. Like you just can't. So there's limits there to how much star treatment. I think that the biggest thing though is that the Clipper culture was supposedly one of the draws for Kawhi Leonard, right? It's that, man, they got a great culture, tough. They play together. They're all about winning and doing the right things. And then you come in and this is a direct departure from that culture, which these are warning signs for Brooklyn. Right? Because the reason that Kyrie signed and brought Kevin Durant with him was the culture of how they played in Brooklyn. But that culture is not just on the basketball floor, it's off the basketball floor. So does it kill me? Does it really bother me? Like, no, I don't care. I don't care where you live. Show up and practice on time. I don't care where you live as long as I don't care who you date. I don't care your sexual orientation. I don't care anything. Just show up at 7 o'clock at Staples Center, guard somebody, make big shots. And the problem was they didn't do those things, and they weren't a cohesive unit. The chemistry didn't get better. And then you have some other guys, the Lou Williamses, who wants to go get wings at a strip club when everybody else is on lockdown. You got, Montrezl Harrell violating COVID stuff and showing up late to the bubble, some of these other guys. So their chemistry was a mess. I don't think that in and of itself, these are the reasons why, but it's part of what the cracks in the foundation for the Clippers and why they disintegrated before us when they were in the bubble.
So a football topic, I've always said I think Belichick could leave New England. Brady did, and we were kind of shocked, but he probably won't, but I think he could. I think most people are mobile. I think successful people have more options. I think teams would write a $15 million check for Belichick and just say, get out here, come on, let's win. But let's talk Brady and Arians. Bruce is older. He tried broadcasting. He didn't love it. He's retired before. I can see Brady and Arians at the end of this thing. They stumble, they make the playoffs, they get routed in the playoffs, and Brady like, timeout. I didn't come here for this. Get me Josh McDaniel. So I said this a week ago, and I said I'm going to get crushed for this, but I don't think it's nuts. Your thoughts?
I don't think it's nuts at all. I think, though, some of this, I'm more surprised that people didn't see it coming. Here's the first rule you need to understand. 33% of NFL free agents are a hit. 33%. Okay, so go and look at all the quarterbacks that moved, and it was reasonable to think that even Tom Brady might be a failure when he left. There's a reason that guys are out on the market. There's all kinds of reasons. Okay, the second part is guys that leave New England. What generally happens, even to the stars, Richard Seymour, one good year and then off a cliff. Okay, so Belichick allowed him. They didn't move mountains to try and keep Tom Brady. They were like, look, we'd like to have you back, but you don't want to be here. Okay. Former Belichick players generally have 1 year and then they fall off. Then you combined completely contrasting styles. And I talked to NFL people in the offseason, and then they thought, well, they're smart football guys. I guess they'll figure it out. But they haven't. Bruce Arians wants to throw the ball downfield, and all Tom Brady wants to do is get rid of the football as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to get hit, and that's where his football IQ and his accuracy within 10 to 15 yards of the line of scrimmage, that's where it's at its peak. And they keep butting heads, and now Arians continues to air their dirty laundry. I'm sure Tom Brady's cool being called out in front of a room of 52 other men with Tampa Bay Buccaneer uniforms, not in front of the rest of the world. So, yeah, here's what I could see happening. Brady used Romo as a surrogate last week. There's no question in my mind. Like, you think Romo's just breaking down the tape and dissecting Tampa Bay's offense on his own immediately and calling it out? Of course not. And that's what these quarterbacks do. They're like politicians. Remember when Eli Manning got benched for Geno Smith? Eli didn't say a word, but his former teammates did. And you know what happened? The GM got fired. The coach got fired. Right. Eli was back as starting quarterback without saying a word. That's what they do. They kill you while you're sleeping. And that's what Tom Brady will do. Arians will retire and Josh McDaniels will be in there. And Tom Brady's like, I had nothing to do with it. Nothing. It's amazing what they're able to do.
So finally, we got a couple minutes here. So the Chargers are going to make a coaching move. And I said the biggest sin in the NFL is having a great quarterback like a Stafford, Deshaun Watson, great talent. You feel like you wasted him. The bigger sin, though, is having a great young quarterback that is free and wasting him. And I like Anthony Lynn. But to me, okay, Chargers have to go out now. And to me, go big. Brian Kelly, Urban, Belichick, whatever it is. Do you think they have it in them? Because I think the sin in this league is you have a Herbert or a Burrow, and you're like, and for 4 years you pay them nothing, and you just go with coordinators and you go cheap. And I'm like, no. Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl when you didn't pay him anything. Flacco did. Cam did. So your thoughts on what they'll do with the Chargers?
I do think they're going to have to make a move. I don't think they want to because Anthony Lynn is as good a man as there is leading an NFL team. And a lot of being a head coach, I don't put all of the blame of the debacle of last week on him. Shane Steichen's inexperience as an offensive coordinator, that was a mess at the end of Buffalo, but it did embody that, like, look, there's a reason they lose all these close games. Right. But like being an NFL head coach is about leading men, about organizing, and Anthony Lynn's good at it. They just lose too many close games. Here's the thing. people are going on old data with the Chargers in terms of them being cheap. They are absolutely not cheap. Okay. They paid Joey Bosa more than anybody had been paid. They paid Melvin Ingram before that. They were going to pay Keenan Allen. They're going to pay Hunter Henry, right? They're going to be able to pay all of these guys within reason. And they like to pay them early. And especially now because they have a quarterback on a rookie deal. They are not cheap. Okay. They don't need a new facility, but they're probably going to open a new training facility in LA just because they want to show everybody we're in LA and we got money to burn. Okay. So they're not cheap. But they are also very smart. They nearly hired Brian Flores instead of hiring Anthony Lynn, and they thought he needed a little bit more time to simmer. So I don't know who they're going to hire. I do think they'll try and get somebody who has a track record of success. But the cautionary tale is of getting rid of Shane Steichen, who I think has done a really good job. Remember, he was put in as the offense coordinator midseason last year, and he's done a really good job. It's when you start to get different quarterback verbiage every year and a different offense every year. That's what happened to Alex Smith, right? Alex Smith, I think 7 coordinators his first 7 years. And shocker, once he had the same offense coordinator 2 years in a row, he played better football. So if it's me, I keep Steichen. Okay, I make an adjustment to the defensive staff. You get Derwin James back. You continue to build that offensive line, which, of course, has been just decimated by injuries. And I think the Chargers are a worst-to-first type of football team. Once you get a coach that understands how to teach them those little things are what keep you from winning games.
Doug Gottlieb, Duggar After Our Show, Fox Sports Radio, All Ball podcast as well on iTunes. Good seeing you, bud. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.